So we're going to work the 93 mechanics multiple choice problem number 17. And so here's the problem right here. It says, if one knows only the constant resultant force acting on an object and the time during which this force acts, one can determine, and here are your choices. So what do we know? We know force, and it's a constant, and we know the time during which that force was applied, so we know delta t. Now what is force times time? So I'm thinking, I know force, I know time. Okay, I'm thinking right away. Force and time is impulse, and impulse is equal to, force times time is equal to a change in momentum. That's the impulse momentum theorem. So this is what I'm thinking. Now let's look at our choices. A, change in momentum of the object. Yes. If I know the force and I know the time that force is applied, I can figure out the change in momentum of the object. And this is, by the way, it says constant resultant force, or the net force acting on the object. So I know the answer is A. So the answer is A. Okay. Now, let's look at the options here. Now, if you were taking the AP test, I wouldn't expect you to do this. I would just say, oh, I know it's A, and move on. I'm positive it's A. But let's take a look at why the distractors are wrong. It says change in velocity of the object. Well, if you're looking at B, the change in velocity, well, you do know the change in momentum, but what is change in momentum equal to? Mass times the change in velocity. Oops, I'm off screen. So, they didn't give us the mass. So yeah, I know the change in momentum, but if I don't know the mass, I can't figure out what the change in velocity is. So B is wrong. Okay, let's take a look at C. Change in kinetic energy of the object. Same thing. That's going to be, kinetic energy is 1/2 mv squared. I don't know the mass, so therefore I can't figure out what the change in kinetic energy is going to be. D, the mass of the object. There's nothing in this equation that allows me to solve for the mass unless I knew the change of velocity. If I knew the force, the time, and the change of velocity, I could figure out the mass, but there's too many unknowns here to do that. So D, And the acceleration of the object, well, again, I know the net force. I don't know the mass, so I can't figure out, because the acceleration would be the net force divided by the mass. Since I don't know the mass, I can't figure out the acceleration. So E is also unobtainable. So this is the answer for A, would be my answer. Now, in your notebook, if you're like, what is the big picture here? Impulse, momentum theorem. That is the force. Now, maybe we can write the complete thing out, right? The integral f dt is equal to delta p. Okay, so you need to have this memorized. Okay, this is something you need to know beyond what's on. You need to know it for the multiple choice. Any questions on this one? That makes sense? Okay, that is all.